I have CJ with me today. It's gonna be quite exciting. We're going to talk about keywords. I know that it's a bit of a struggle for some of you. And as you know, keywords is like everywhere. Life is all about keywords because that's how you do your search and that's how you assess your competition. That's how you find your ideas. So it's really important that we get this right. So we thought that we can use some previous book ideas we talked about in the previous session. And we can build on that and talk about keywords and reverse engineer the way how we use keywords to find book topics. So there's a few things, I guess, three kind of major areas where we think about keywords. We think about keywords when we put the 7 keywords in our back end in KDP when we upload the book. We think about keywords obviously when we do the book title search, when we look for competition. And there's also the keywords that we put in our campaign. So we're not going to talk about book campaign today. This takes several sessions, I would say. So we're really going to focus about those 7 keywords and also keywords, how to analyze keywords from how to analyze demand and competition based on keywords. And we're going to use Publisher Rocket as the software, the main software we use. So what I'll do is, while CJ is giving you all the juice and the goodies, I'm going to keep an eye in the chat box. And if there's any questions that we can answer quickly, I will do that. I will type as fast as I can. Just make sure that you send all the questions to panelists and attendees. So this way everyone can see your question. If it's not related to keywords, please just send an email to the support desk, which is kpi@blueskyamazon.com. So we're just trying to keep things on point. So, we're not getting sidetracked. Okay, with that very long introduction, take over.
Okay, all righty. So I wanted to draw your attention to this lovely page because we were talking about serial killers last time. So I thought we would just kind of expand on this. And I wanted to reverse engineer it because in a couple of the lessons, Sophie goes over keywords. She goes over the research for getting the 7 keywords that you need when you're going to publish your book. She also talks about making your book description and your title and subtitle search engine optimized, but also just very pointed so people know exactly what they're getting. So I wanted to give you an example of this, and we're just going to take a look at some of the things that this author has done on Kindle Publisher Rocket so that you can get an idea of how this all worked together. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to, obviously, is the title. The big book of serial killers, 150 serial killer files of the world's worst murderers. So we've got the first main title here. Here's your subtitle, and then they've used the series because he has more than one here. They've used the series as an opportunity to get in even more keywords. Sophie has talked about keyword stuffing. You can do it like this as long as it makes sense, okay? So these keywords need to make sense rather than you just making an itemized list of this keyword and then comma this keyword and then, so that's not a great idea. But what he's done is he's really prioritized this, or prioritized the serial killers. So it's, 3 times in here: title, subtitle, and series, okay? Another thing I want you to take a look at, and I know this because of all of the research that I've recently done, and you will start to get the hang of it and the feel for it and being able to recognize keywords and keyword phrases or potential for that, and look things up and search things. The more that you do this, but big book of, that's actually something that people use quite a bit as kind of a way to itemize things or to give people knowledge concerning something. So you could see like the big book of keto diets, or the big book of I don't know, if you wanted to go into like ants. I've actually seen a big book of ants, you know, the different types of species. So there's also this, an encyclopedia of. So this author has really taken a really great idea and then created a lot of different opportunities to get ranked online. So that's interesting. The next thing I kind of want to scroll down here, and I want you to take a look at the blurb, the book description, because when you read it, you'll notice that it's actually quite interesting. But what you wouldn't notice unless you're just kind of a seasoned keyword researcher is that it's chock full of keyword phrases and search terms. And they do it in a way where it makes sense, and you're still able to write a description around this that draws someone in and helps them A, understand what the book is about, and B, what the content is. And it's not boring. What I find really interesting about this is that the author put in cannibals, vampires, and monsters. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself when I was researching a lot of other things that this actually popped up under cannibals or under vampires, actually. So I don't know that you would necessarily want to put those types of things in there. Make sure your keywords are relevant to what you're doing. I think in this instance, it makes sense, obviously, because it's about serial killers, and he's creating a hook right here and trying to draw people in. But you don't necessarily want to have your book pulled up and associated with other books that really have nothing to do with yours, okay? So just the top right here, stalk and snatch their prey under the cloak of darkness. These hunters search not for animals, but for the touch, taste, and empowerment of human flesh. I mean, you could go in here and analyze everything and see if anything is a key word, but we've got serial killers mentioned 3 times up at the top. Now we're going to go through here, and you're going to see serial killers sprinkled throughout here about 6 different times. Another thing you're going to notice is that they put Dennis Rader as one of the serial killers in here. I found that interesting. You always kind of want to include very pertinent keywords and search terms that actually, have something to do with the content of your book, but are also searched quite frequently. And the way we check all of this is through Publisher Rocket. But I just really wanted to draw your eye to this so that you can start recognizing these things, getting an idea of how blurbs need to be written and how you can do it without keyword stuffing and the blurb just not making any sense. So A to Z encyclopedia, that could be one. Ideal reference book, I've looked into we can look into those as well. True crime serial killers, that's definitely going to be one. You could also see most famous true crime serial killers. So you see these long-tailed keywords that are very, very detailed, and you can mess around with those a little bit. You could just do true crime serial killers. You could do most famous true crime serial killers and compare the data to see, what is working. But you'll get a lot of ideas as you pull stuff up on Publisher Rocket, and then more names are mentioned. Okay. I liked what they did right here, not to mention the women who kill. And the reason that stood out to me is just because I've done a lot of research, and I know that there is a book called The Women Who Kill. So he's really trying to tie himself to serial killers, whether female or male, so that anyone who searches, female serial killers will also be directed to this book. So The Women Who Kill, that's also a keyword phrase that you can look at. And then he's put some names right there, because he could have just said female serial killers, but perhaps that's too competitive a phrase to use, or maybe this is better and maybe he's getting more bang for his buck. Although I would imagine that serial killers is especially difficult to rank for, but this guy's like ranked at 10,000. He's a bestseller. So I think he seems to be managing the competition well. So you always have to consider how seasoned are you in this? And how would you like to start out? Probably with less competition when it comes to keywords, okay? Lesser known serial killers, I thought that might be an interesting possible keyword phrase. And then we've got serial killer files. I do believe that he touches on that Yeah, serial killer files. So that could be another one that we can take a look at. Okay. Zodiac killer, the big book of serial killers. He says it again in his book description. The world's most heinous murderers. That could be one as well. So these, I just think it's very important that when you're researching your competition, if you feel a little stuck as to content, as to title, take a look what others are doing. But again, make sure that it's something that you're doing that is, you know, a different kind of spin, or that you can word things a little differently. Go in and do your keyword research to see what you could do for your title, subtitle, and book blurb. The next thing that I want to take a look at just real quickly before we get into KDP Rocket is, and I thought I saw a hand up, Virginie. Did anybody have a question that we needed to address before I talk about the reviews? Or
we're pretty good. I think some
okay.
are commenting, some are asking whether book descriptions matters, and I said that the primary real estate will be in the title and subtitle, but everything matters. You know, it goes in front of your writers, so everything matters. It's just not as important you know, as the title and subtitle. But as you said, you go read the book descriptions also to get ideas of keywords that your competitors are using, and then that in turn generate more keywords for your own book, or more ideas for your own book. So
yeah, if you guys can think of your Amazon product page as prime real estate, this is your marketing tool. It is the thing that is going to get someone to come land on your page and either buy or walk away. We just don't want them to do that. If you can actually get someone to your page, we want them to buy. So all of this really needs to work and to make sense. So when you're going to your competitors' pages and you're looking at reviews, I want you to take a look at what is working for them and what is not working for them, the content that they like and the content that they do not like, or what's lacking. What is lacking that maybe you could put in yours? So these are pain points and I mean market demands, if you will, where you're almost surveying people through these reviews. So it's just really great information to get. So this reviewer said, this is a great book if you want to know how many people were killed and basic statistical information. So if you were looking for a storyline or photos, that's not in here. But she wanted that. I believe Haley wanted that as well. The book is not what I was hoping it to be. It is interesting with the factual breakdown of each killer's info. However, the book is very plain considering there aren't any pictures of the killers. So that could be something that would be interesting, possible content that you could do keyword research for. And searching a little more. So you could do like keyword research for serial killer photos. Maybe people are, you know, possibly that could rank as something you could focus on. Serial killer trivia. That could be another thing that you might put in the content that is something that could rank well. So even when you're doing keyword research for titles and subtitles, it's really also great just to do keyword research for the content that would be most applicable for this book based on what is being searched the most. Because you don't want to get a great book idea and then miss the mark when it comes to writing the content or just outlining it, you know, giving your ghostwriter the topics that he within the book that he really should be focusing on. Because if you were talking about things that people just actually really aren't interested within that idea, that could be a miss altogether. So these are really good things to know about pain points and what they do like about it. So this particular reviewer said, I've read more than one book of the encyclopedia types. So this is a really cool clue and indicator that this is a thing. Encyclopedia types are a thing. So the big book of, the big encyclopedia of. So, you know, those are ideas and possibilities that you could use for other things or for this particular idea as well. So she's saying this is the best one she's ever read. The layout is perfect. If you prefer, if you like a clean, logically laid out book, then this is the book for you. So pertinent information is first followed by sections for background, the crimes, capture and trial, and sometimes even trivia. So you're actually getting an interesting look at layout that you can then go back and do keyword research for. So it all goes back to keyword research. You really want to test it out and see if any of this could be applicable for you. Okay, so now what we're going to do is move to Publisher Rocket. Okay. And yes, I made sure that I went and watched a tutorial so I would know how to do my screen sharing a little better. Okay, so I pulled up a lot of stuff here, keyword things, because I wanted you, I didn't want to waste time trying to pull things up. I was afraid my computer would be super slow. I've been struggling over here with the internet. So I just pulled up a lot of the keywords that I noticed so that we can take a look at them. So the first thing that I want you to see is that we're on serial killers. When you are trying to analyze a keyword, you're going to click on this cool button right here, and it's going to analyze what the data is for serial killers. And we're just going to kind of touch on this, okay? So this number right here shows you the amount of people who are competing for this keyword in Amazon. These are the people who are trying to get ranked on page 1, okay? So that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people that you're going to be competing against with this just by itself. So then you're kind of sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, that's just a very short keyword. Maybe we can make it a little bit longer, which is probably why he went for serial killer files, because that could give us a completely different idea as far as numbers go. Average monthly earnings. It tells you the estimated average monthly earnings of the top books that rank for this keyword. Okay, this is the top 5 books. So all of this information is for the top 5 books. This is what the top 5 books are making that have to do with serial killers. It's telling us that the Google searches are not applicable for here, but these are the estimated Amazon searches every month when people type in this serial killer phrase. So you know that there's demand for it. People are searching for it, but I want you to look at the competitive score. This tells you how hard it would be to rank your book for that keyword, with 0 being easiest and 100 being hardest. So if you want to rank on that very first page of 20 books listed on Amazon, when people go in to search for serial killers, you're going to be fighting a tough battle there. You would need probably ads and good marketing, because that competitive score is 83. Okay. I don't necessarily look at revenue sometimes because it can be a little misleading. Okay. What I want to look at is the amount of searches, because that tells me what the demand is. I want to know what the searches are, and I want to know how hard it's going to be for me to show up for those people and to do those. Everyone who's searching, are they going to see me? So sometimes you need to tweak those keywords to fit a different way of saying it or looking at it or doing it, because this is by far just too much. There's serial killer's daughter, which that's crazy. And we could always analyze that and take a look at it too. But you'll see as you scroll down that what you're going to find, see, that's a better ranking. So when it comes to competitive scores, when you are first starting out and you are trying to learn how to do this, be kind to yourself. Okay, don't go for a keyword that is so competitive that you feel like you've got to get all the marketing in right away and you've got to learn everything and know everything. When you're a newbie and you're starting out, I would say 40 to 0 is a good bet for you. When you become a little more seasoned, you could go like 65 down. Okay, as you become a pro, then you can like deal with 90 and down, but don't ever compete with anything higher than 90. Okay, that's hard. That means you're going to be having to pay a lot of money with keyword bidding for Amazon ads, and that'll all come later. But just save yourself heartache and money and trouble and all that, and go for things that are going to have better competitive scores, but also be very applicable to your title, the topic of your book, and that you actually have enough searches for it. Okay, so funnily enough, we've got 1,919 searches for serial killer's daughter, which I find interesting. And you'll see that as you go through these, you might actually get new ideas for different books based on the demand that you see. So it's and maybe different ideas for chapters. So if I actually wanted to do something on serial killers, maybe I would have a chapter about the daughters of serial killers. Or I could do a whole book on, 20,000 words about daughters of serial killers, since it seems to be searched enough. The average monthly earnings for the top 5 books, I mean, it's not huge, but you consider That's a better competitive score. So maybe it'd work better as just a chapter, just information on that. So you'll see that as you scroll down and you take a look at all of this stuff, that it becomes very, very interesting. Serial killers nonfiction. Let's take a look at that. Because maybe all we had to do was just add this one extra little word right here and make it a longer phrase, and maybe that makes a difference in the numbers. And I apologize for my slow computer. So we've got quite a few competitors. Top 5 books are making that much money. I'm not thrilled with the searches, but the competitive score is better. So I'm a fan of like 400 up. That's just me. You got to decide how you feel about that. But don't ever do anything less than 100. That's a very bad idea. So if you're seeing that there are Amazon searches that are less than 100, don't even attempt that. That's going to be a rough waste of time there, unless you feel very strongly about it and it's a very low competitive score. Sometimes there are just no hard or fast rules, and you just go with your gut and you try it. You try something. And you can always adjust and fix things. And that's the really wonderful thing about self-publishing, is that you're not waiting on a traditional publisher to fix things for you. That is frustrating, especially when you have all these ideas and know-how and they're not implementing it. So you can go in and change these keywords at any time, which a lot of times I actually recommend checking the market again, checking what is working, and maybe fixing the 7 keywords that you have, okay? So let's, here's another aspect that I actually would like you to take a look at, because you're looking at the numbers here, but it's also a really good idea to see what those top 5 books are within this category, because sometimes that can be misleading. Sometimes these top 5 books could actually be like novels, fiction novels, okay? So you can click on this competition button, or if you want to analyze the competition, you would just go up here to this button, okay? Click on that. Type in the serial killers nonfiction thing. And again, the computer is taking forever to load this up. I apologize. But what it's supposed to show you right here is the book cover, the book title, and then it's going to give you the author, how long the book has been published. So you'll get a really good idea of whether it has been saturated really quickly within the last month. That's something that Sophie talked about. It's a really bad idea to jump in on something where you've seen quite a few new books pop up. It could mean that it's the start of something there. So while that's populating and taking forever to populate, yeah. Yes.
To interrupt you while it's loading. This is a question that comes very often. There's the Kindle category and there's a books category, and people often do you check in books or in Kindle? And I said in both, because
both, yes. All of these, you'll see this little EB right here. That's for ebook. But if I want to just check books, then what I can do is I can hit new search, and I pulled all of this up because I was terrified that nothing. Oh, our internet's been so bad. I apologize. But oops, that's not what I want to type in. Okay, serial killers. And then instead of clicking on ebook right here, you just keep it at books, okay? So that you're getting the different types of information for different formats. You're getting what is working for ebook, what's working for your book, and that's going to help you. And that's, of course, going to take some time to load. So I'm going to head back over here to this one.
Hopefully it goes back. So while it's thinking, and then I'm going to push that one step further. So if the next question you have is, what if it's doing well in ebooks, but not well in books? Then it's just going to focus in ebooks and not in books, but you have to know. And if it's doing well, say in books, but not well in ebooks, then I think it's important that you pay a little bit of attention as to the content of your book, because if there's a lot of illustrations, and especially colored illustrations, you need to query whether it's worth the printing cost, because if you print in color on KTP, using KTP, the cost is going to be really quite high, and it might eat all of your margins. in which case that's probably not the topic that I want to dive into with KDP for paperback. So that's
right.
Yeah, that's the kind of, you know, the kind of question I get. So I thought maybe I can touch on that.
No, good points. Yeah, definitely. So this is just, again, I grabbed all the keywords that I thought had potential that I spotted in there, and I just wanted to pull them up so it wouldn't take us too long considering
That's all right.
everything.
Another question, which is a really good question, is paperback and hardback the same thing? No, it's not. So on KTB, maybe, look, I can show you the difference. So, made with my stupid screen, it doesn't work. Okay, no, it doesn't work. Hold on, let me just remove my my silly background. Okay, I'm just checking if it's messy. No, it's not messy. All right, so this is paperback. You see how it's kind of soft, but this is a hardback. This is hard, so it's different. And with KDP, Amazon KDP, you can only do ebooks and paperback. You cannot do hardcover.
Yeah, so you don't even necessarily need to worry about what you would do as far as keywords for hardcover, since that's not something that you can publish within KDP. You could worry about keywords and what's working for hardcover, like on a different platform like Ingram Spark. They do hardcover, but you don't have to worry about that with KDP. So okay, so this finally showed up. Yay. So we've got a lot of competitors here, and I knew that I had seen this enough for it to, you know, merit something. But considering the number of competitors here, those average monthly earnings for the top 5 are a little bit meh. So, I mean, it's a judgment call, really, but maybe that wouldn't be the route that you would consider taking for your book, is naming it the big book of, or focusing on a broad spectrum of things. Maybe it's better to really niche down and get granular. And then there's only 262 searches. The competitive score is a little too high for my taste. So, but you again can, you know, scroll down here and see what people are actually creating when it comes to the big book of granny squares. That's interesting. Big book of Jewish humor, big book of nursery rhymes. That could be a good one, although that is probably a little bit saturated. Big book of organic baby food. Who knew? So, you know, it's while you're doing the keyword research for your particular book idea, take note of what you're seeing, because it can always spark more ideas. You know, add things to your spreadsheet. You can never get enough ideas, and maybe the content of your book will take a different little twist. So we're taking a look at serial killer files now, okay? So serial killer alone was that was a very competitive score. I think it was 85. So with serial killer files, I'm kind of hoping it will be less. Ooh, that's lovely, except womp womp. Okay, so I do not like the less than 100. But you know, if you were to use this for like an AMS ad as a keyword, that might not be a bad idea. You know, you can test a lot of different things out, and I know we'll get into AMS ads and doing keyword research for that a little bit later, but you know, maybe because of this nice competitive score, and also because of, you know, the number of competitors, you might look at the data and just say, I think I'll hold on to it. I'll keep it around. Clearly, serial killer files is doing something for that book that is selling really well, and it might have something to do with the fact that this competitive score is just so low. And then you have serial killer files book. So, you know, maybe there are more searches for that. So you can see how sometimes you really have to tweak the keyword or keyword phrase that you originally had, because you might get something a little bit better, which yeehaw we do, you know. So if you can figure out how to use serial killer files book or books, you know, you'll notice these differences. It's a little bit more competitive, but you have more searches, and there's a little bit more revenue within the top 5 books. So it's all very interesting as you're kind of collating that information. And then just that one S on there changed lots of things, as in nobody's earning money with that. No money with that. I find that really interesting. So getting the data, bringing it together, you will find that I say data and data interchangeably. I apologize. I'm throwing that out there right now. It bothers people in my family, but I just do it. So what you'll find is that this is going to change and be so different. So it really is super important to actually tweak all of these keywords in different ways, because you will find profitability in just the simplest of changes with the tweaking of a word. Instead of saying your book and you said my book, there could be a huge difference in revenue and profit. And you know, as far as competitive scores go, and even searches. So it's just kind of surprising that there are so many searches for this, and that it's registering that. It almost seems like a glitch to me, but you know, again, you can go in and look at the competition. I want to go back in here and see if that actually even loaded. Yay. Oh, happiness. Okay. So the first top 5 books for serial killers seem to be Serial Killers, Methods and Madness. We've got Saga. See, this has nothing to do with it. This is possibly a fiction novel about serial killers, but you know, take that into account when you are looking at these, because if someone is searching serial killers nonfiction, and you know, a fiction novel pops up, you're not necessarily actually in competition with that particular book. You could kind of take that out of the equation, because yes, they might want to read a fiction book about it, but they were specifically searching for serial killers nonfiction. So keep that into account. So remember, again, the age is the amount of days that it's been published. If a lot of these books have been published recently, you might want to hit pause on it, okay? Or consider a new idea or new angle, but hopefully you've already figured that out before you get to this point where you're searching for keywords of title, subtitle, and then the 7 keywords you would use for the book, okay? This is the Amazon bestseller rank, or ABSR, and it tells you Amazon's ranking of the book compared to other books, okay? Number of pages. So this actually shows up and is very comparable to Katie Spy in a lot of ways. It's going to give you a lot of the same information and data, and you can take a look at all of this because it's just very helpful to have it visually. And also you've got the covers right there, which I think is great. That's not really something that shows up on Katie Spy. So a lot of times when I pull up Katie Spy, I'll see a book and I'll think to myself, oh, I think that's a fiction book, but then I have to click and go in and actually look and make sure, you know. So to be able to see it here is helpful, I think. And there's the, you know, the big book of serial killers. So if we were to take these novels out, there's 1 and 2. So really that's 1, 2, 3, and it is in the top 5, 4, 5. Okay, so those are the top 5 books that you're kind of competing against, and that they're really getting all of the data from. If you actually want to go to the sales page, just click on check it out. It'll take you to that Amazon sales page. You can take a look at the book description and get more ideas for keywords for them as well. So this tool is super helpful. It's intuitive, it's easy to use. They've got some great tutorials on here too. You can just click on this and go through all of them and get a lot of great tips. And it's all free. So they just teach you how to use the tool and how to use it for market research. And I found that very, very helpful when I was first starting out. World's Worst Murderers. So that was I think that was either in the title or subtitle, possibly in the book description. But if we click on that, we see that it's not too competitive. Lots of searches for it, not bad with the monthly earnings for the top 5, and there aren't a whole lot of people actually, you know, competing for that. World's Worst Boyfriend, maybe that would be cool for a dating series. So there goes my brain with like, ooh, squirrel, you know, just my brain constantly jumping back and forth. Okay, so an encyclopedia of, I always want to see what this, I just like this stuff. Oh, I'm such a nerd. I like this stuff so much, but it's really fascinating. So you see that this is less than 100 searches, but again, it's got a very low competitive score. He clearly decided that it should be in there. So, but look at who you're competing against. So I'm not really sure if he's noticed any hits as it's become more saturated, but when you add an encyclopedia of serial killers, I would imagine that changes things a little bit. Did I even put that up here? No. Okay, let's just try it. An encyclopedia of serial killers. I want to know. Encyclopedia of serial killers. Okay, so just with that alone, there's not a ton of searches. Let's look at books instead of ebooks. And while that is taking forever to pop up, do we have any questions or anything you want to talk about?
Sonam is asking, what is the best idea to find a keyword for your own new book? Well, the thing is, there's no one best way. And as you've seen right now, what CJ is doing, it's one idea is going to take her to another place, and it's just really, you can spend hours and hours on this. At some point, you got to stop, right? Once you find, say, 3 good ideas, 3 good keywords, go for it. Like, just you got to go for it. You do the assessment, and then if it ticks all the boxes, then just try. If you don't try, you'll never know. You're going to be stuck in the loop of forever looking for keywords idea. Just like when you do a physical product, Amazon physical products, it's the same thing. You're going to be in the forever idea generation phase, but you're not assessing them and you are not moving forward. And what we want is that you are actually going to launch a book. I think someone else asked about whether they can launch their low content notebook in their Seller Central, the physical product side of Seller Central. No, you can't, because paperback on KTP is print in demand. And Seller Central is for the fulfillment, if you use the FBA, it's for the fulfillment of your physical products. So you cannot use Seller Central to upload your, your paperback, because Amazon will not know what to do with your book. Gerald is asking, so I think it's, so he's asking if the if the 4 top books have more than 1,500 reviews, is this too much competition? And I answered, you need to check whether the book is appropriate for the audio book format. Some books are not. For example, I don't want to listen to recipes. I want probably to see it, on paper or on Kindle. So if the book topic is not appropriate for the audio book format, then yes, the reviews on Amazon will give you an indication on the competition. If, and then Gerald said there are books on the topics in audiobooks, but only about 7 books. So again, that's what I'm trying to say. If that book, the topic is appropriate for audiobook format, and you only see 7 books, but there's a lot of reviews on Amazon, I would want to, I would weight both. But I would still think that if the book is appropriate for the audio format and there's only 7 books on audiobooks on Audible, then there might be something there. And I also want to check the number of reviews on Audible. So it's not an exact science, right? We can't say if the competition is under 40, go for it. If it's over 40, don't go for it. Maybe you have a particular expertise in that area, and you can compete. Maybe you want to go there because you know that you're going to add a lot of value to your readers. So it's not a hard rule, like, if it's this kind of number, then go for it. So sometimes you just have to listen to a bit of your gut instinct. Well, that's what I do.
I think the fear when you're first getting started, whether you are a fiction author or you're publishing things and working with ghostwriters, is that initial hurdle over the first time doing it. And what you find yourself doing is spinning in this analysis paralysis issue, because it's a new thing. It's out of your comfort zone. You're learning how to do it. You want to get it right. You want it to be perfect. You want to know for sure that this is going to do it. And the thing is, there is simply no guarantee, which is why it is so important to do the best you can, with the information you get as you're researching the market. Make a judgment call and pull the trigger. Because you know, reviews can be subjective when it comes to ebooks. I think it's a good rule of thumb to use, you know, over if there's 100 reviews on Audible, to gauge that to see if there's profitability there. But when you're dealing with tons of reviews on ebooks and paperbacks, for some reason it's a little bit harder for a lot of authors to get reviews through Audible, I have noticed, than it is to get reviews through ebook and paperback, especially because a lot of authors are doing newsletter swaps. They are going to book tour sites where their book is being shown to hundreds of subscribers, and those people are hurrying and getting on. So if you are a real mover and a shaker, you can get a ton of reviews. That doesn't necessarily mean that book or that area is going to be far too competitive for another individual to get into. It just means that person was like, I'm going to tap into all these different audiences and start working like crazy to get reviews going. So it's a little bit easier to do with ebook and paperback. I think the reason why audiobooks are such a good sign of like genuine organic reviews coming in is because it's a lot harder to get them. Okay, so because authors and publishers are working a lot more towards the reviews for ebook and paperback. So again, no hard or fast rules on that. To some extent, it's just market research and doing the best you can with the numbers you're given and kind of the guidelines that we're giving you. So please don't use these guidelines as an obstacle for you. Don't use it as something that is preventing you from going forward. We're trying to streamline this process and show you how to do it. But in the process of that and the guidelines we're giving you, we don't want to suddenly trap you, put you in a cage where you just are, you know, panicking because you don't know if that's really going to work for you or not. It's okay to work through this and learn what is working and what isn't working. The best learning lessons I've had throughout all of this is, you know, having a book that actually flopped, and that was okay. And I figured out what was wrong, and I tweaked the keywords, and I fixed the cover, and you know, that was a great learning experience for me because I realized, oh, I was off the mark a little bit on this. That's why. So initially it was kind of like, oh no, but then I figured it out. So that was a long way of saying, just go for it. Sorry, guys. Was there any other questions or anything else you wanted to cover, Virginie?
I think it looks good. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
At the end of the day, you got to do it.
Yeah.
That's it. You got to do it. And so I really encourage all of you just to jump. You got to jump, and the consequences are, what are the consequences? You know, fear of what? Like it doesn't work, but okay, well, you will know better for the next one, right? But if you don't do anything, you will be exactly at the same spot as you are today, and that's a much bigger fear for me than, you know, than failing at my first book. To be honest, my first book did nothing. I think I spent $186 to make $8.
Been there.
What's going on? So, but then I learned a lot, right? So just jump. You got to jump. You got to try. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going because I'm just mindful of the time.
Okay. So with the Encyclopedia of Serial Killers, when you add that on there, it really didn't do much to change this issue, although it lowered the competitive score. So, you know, why not? And I think that's what he was thinking too. Why not? But also, this is cool. Sidetracked again, and I apologize, but an encyclopedia of occultism, interesting. An encyclopedia of Tolkien. I have no idea if there's a market for that, but that's interesting too. So let's see, these were ideas for content, things that you could put not only in your book description to tell people what your book is about, but you know, what you could actually put within your book. So just to see if you're on the right track, you know, you can look at those things and say, should I really put this information in my book? Are people searching for these things? So we're just kind of, this is a little bit off the topic of like subtitle and title, but when you're doing your 7 keywords, you really want to be able to find things that are pertinent to the content of your book, pertinent to what you're writing about, and can be very specific for your KDP form that you fill out with the 7 keywords. You want to be, it needs to be very short and specific. You don't want the big long tail keywords within that particular area of the form that you're filling out when you're going in to upload and publish your book. So serial killer trials, that's very pointed and specific, something you can talk about. Not a ton of searches on here, but the competitive score is low. It might be something that you would consider. Let's look at serial killer stats. Let's see. So you can see what I wanted to say. I had lost my train of thought before. I usually try to get anywhere from 50 to 100 keywords that I've researched so that I can put it in a spreadsheet. And there's actually, let me move this over here real quick. You can actually export all this information into a spreadsheet. So if you were to hit, analyze on all of these and try to get them to go and did the whole list down, you could actually export that, take a look at the data, delete things that you feel are not applicable, delete things that you don't think are profitable or too competitive, not enough demand, and then eventually get to the point where you have like a spreadsheet with about 100 keywords and keyword phrases that are very applicable to your book idea, to subtitle, title, content, 7 keywords. And from that list of all of that data that would be very helpful, then you can kind of piece together which things would actually be good for a title, what would be great for a subtitle, what other things would you want to include in the content. So that's kind of how I whittle down all of this massive amounts of information, just exporting things and analyzing and comparing all of this. And it does take time. So don't ever worry about, the time that it's taking you to do the research. But again, don't get bogged down. Goal is 50 to 100. Take a look at them because it's going to be helpful to have even just some extras for future use, especially when it comes to Amazon ads. Okay, so you just kind of hit all of it, search for all of these things, get your information in spreadsheets, and then start deleting everything that is too saturated, not searched enough, or this too competitive. Okay, that's kind of the criteria that you want to fall under. But those are the things that you can do when you're analyzing this to figure out how to title it, how to get it found, how to draw organic traffic to your book, how to make your book searchable, really. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. Now, we kind of reverse engineered this because we took what was already there, what was already made, and we went backwards to look at what was profitable. When you're in the process of this, I kind of wanted to just take a look at that original idea that we found to be profitable a couple weeks ago. And I think it was it Serial Killers Famous Murder Cases? Was that what it was? I don't remember.
I think so, yes.
Serial Killers Famous Murder Cases. So once you have your idea, you just type it in and see where it leads you. Go down the rabbit hole to an extent, okay? Do not get lost in the rabbit hole. But, really start to look at it and build your ideas from there. So we'll just click on this. If we find that it's not going to be the best keyword search term for our title or for our subtitle, then we see how we tweak it. We'll just scroll down. That's interesting. American serial killers. Maybe it could be American serial killers famous murder cases. Or maybe you could say serial killer famous murder cases and then the colon, and then put American serial killers, or just tweak it around there. So we got nothing. How rude. Okay. You might want to look at the competition and check that out. It's always going to disappoint you sometimes when you're like, what? Why isn't there? Oh, that's cool. Okay, American serial killers. So maybe you could do famous murder cases and then subtitle American serial killers. That could be super interesting. And I just want to spend hours looking at this. I am such a nerd. It's a good thing I have friends who call me. Okay, so this is a little bit too, the competitive score I think is a little bit too too much just for a beginner. But if you really like the idea and you think you can put a little bit of money behind it, go for it. You know, why not? So I kind of like that. I think that's interesting. What I want to do is just take a look at famous murder cases by itself, because we got nothing here, but I just want to see, well, and we didn't even do the ebook. So let's try the ebook too. Famous murder cases. Go get 'em, Rocket. We'll take a look at this. So what you'll find is you'll get, as Publisher Rocket brings up other search terms that are kind of relevant, you'll find little things and you think to yourself, oh, that could be the subtitle. Let's see what the data says, you know. So it's kind of fun. To me, it's a puzzle piece, putting it all together and figuring out what would match up really well and work really well. Okay, so just famous murder cases by itself. That ain't bad. I love this so much. I love this so much that I don't even care about the fact that it's over 60. I'm okay with that. So you could go from famous murder cases and then go back to this little area right here. And you could do American serial killers, because that's very pointed, very specific, and maybe add something else. American serial killers and their victims. I don't know, that could be interesting. If you don't like the fact that this competitive score was a little bit too high, then maybe come down here. I saw something that I wanted to take a look at. Serial killer cookbook? No way. Why would you do that? I'm actually going to go check that and see if that's a real thing, because if that is, I'm so going to look that up. Okay. Oh, stop scrolling up. Why is it doing that? So serial killer, true crimes. I'm going to hold on to this and go back up here. Stop. Oh, my computer hates me sometimes.
Doesn't matter if the Google search is NA. I don't think so. I mean, I don't pay too much attention to that.
Yeah. What is interesting to note, though, is if there are no searches on Amazon, but searches on Google, you might consider the cost benefit of that, because if you're doing an ad that is targeted towards Google, then at least you know that that particular you know, if you're doing Google ads or anything like that, then it's nice to know that that particular search term is actually something that people are searching for on Google. So while I wouldn't use that term for Amazon ads, because nobody would be searching for it, if there's an NA here, but they're searching here, you know, then consider that that could be used on a different platform for ads. But if you're going to be using any keywords when it comes to getting, you know, found on Amazon, because Amazon is its own search engine, you want to make sure that this is not blank for title, subtitle, all of that. I use this column particularly and strictly for any Google ads I'm doing. That's important to know for me anyway. I'm not sure what Sophie and Virginie do, but that's kind of how I gauge it.
Yeah, I don't really pay too much attention on this. What are good numbers for competitors? So again, when you just start, maybe get around that 40 under 40.
Yeah, and that I got those numbers from the tutorial.
Sorry, the number of competitors. Sorry, I was talking about the competitive score. The number of competitors, you can't just look at the number of competitors alone. It's right. You know, it depends on the earnings, or it depends on the Amazon search per month. You got to look at all those numbers together, and that's why we look at the competitive score, because that score takes into account all, you know, all the four first things.
Yeah, these other things right here.
Yeah, those are the things, because you can have, say, a really low number of competitors, but if you have no search volume on Amazon, then what's the point? You can have a very high monthly earning, but if the competition is really high, then maybe not. So that's why we maybe pay more attention to the competitive score in this instance. But again, it's just a guide, right? If you think that you can compete, by all means, go for it.
Definitely. I have seen some interesting things where, like, the numbers were 32,000 here of number of competitors, but the competitive score was 20, which leads me to believe that this, you know, they have the keywords in their books, but for whatever reason, they're not focused on truly ranking for that keyword. Somehow it's just so much easier for whatever reason. So that is something that does help you quite a bit. Another thing you need to consider is you may have like 300 competitors here, but like $15,000 worth of revenue and like maybe 100 searches. If you have something like that where this is low and this column is low and this column is really high, what you're dealing with is a series. You're dealing with someone who is making a ton of revenue for this particular thing because they are well known and it's people are just going through their stuff. So that information can be a little bit skewed. So again, this is the first thing you want to look at, as well as this. It's nice to know these numbers, especially knowing whether there's, you know, really enough money in there to share, or maybe enough money for you to just steal completely, you know, depending on the competitive score. But you want to take a look at these two first. This is how hard it's going to be to compete and how much demand there is, which is the same. It's the profitability formula, really, which is what you're doing with any book idea or topic with Katie Spy, you know, and when you're searching for an actual book topic before you even get into all of the keyword research. How competitive is it? How saturated is it? And then is anyone demanding it? Is anybody searching for it? So, oh, and this serial killer true crime, that could be interesting. If you wanted to do famous murder cases as the title, serial killer true crime as the subtitle, because looky here, only 20, that's pretty great. I'm happy with, you know, almost 500 searches. That's pretty. I'm not sure what the less than 1,200 is, or greater than. I don't understand why that's doing that. I've never seen that before. Can you shed some light on that, Virginie? No. No, I can't either. But I'm not really concerned with the number of competitors, just because that's awesome and that's awesome, and I like that too. So what's that?
Yeah, not bad at all. I think a lot of you may be asking, what's the right number for search? What's the minimum for search volume? What's the average monthly earning you're looking for? What's the number of competitors? What's the if I might, forget a little bit about those exact numbers. You got to trust a little bit your instincts and weigh the different factors together. It's really not an exact science. So, you know, see, like this is a great example. CJ just saw something, you know, what is over 1,200 in the number of competitors. She hasn't really seen that kind of sign, but she's not first. She's not going to dig in, you know, pay attention to the things that matters. This does not matter. Like she said, she looked at the search volume, looks good. Competitive score looks good. Average monthly earning looks pretty good. This thing, I don't know what that is. CJ doesn't really know what that is, but it doesn't really matter. Let's then really zoom in this keyword and see what we can find about it, and see if we're going to go ahead with this book. Just keep in mind that the end goal is for you to launch a good book.
Right.
So it's not about understanding all the technical aspect of behind all those software, things like that. And if you're really interested, you can always send an email to their support, publisher rocket support help desk, if you really want to know. But just spend your time and effort on the things that really matter.
Dave Cheston is a cool dude. He's the one that put all this together, Meta Writers Conference, and his main goal is to just help authors. So his support group is really great. I've talked to his staff. They're really helpful. So if you have questions about this, he's also got a YouTube channel, and he goes into more detail about Publisher Rocket. So you could look at his stuff to really help you navigate this, if you would like to do that. So
because we're already an hour in, should we talk quickly about the seven keywords? And then there's a question about Publisher Rocket versus KD Spy. So I don't know you, CJ, but I use both.
I use both.
Yeah, I use KD Spy for that initial search, you know, when I'm on the page on Amazon. And then I have that, overview of, say, the top 20 books. But for keywords, and later on when you're doing category search and AMS keyword search, all that, I use Publisher Rocket. I just find that easier, faster. Yeah, so
this is specific to Amazon. Dave has created this to work specifically with Amazon and its algorithms and its formulas. So he works with them. So that's why I use it. I think if I were publishing on other platforms, again, using this column to consider what would be profitable for a Google search and, a Google ad, you can do that. So there are other tools that you can use for keyword research for different platforms, but for something specific to Amazon and understanding what's being searched on there, this honestly, it's the best thing I have found. That's not to say there isn't other things out there, but it has just been beautiful for me. So yeah.
7 keywords. Let's go quickly because we're just
right. Well, essentially, it's pretty much the same thing. This is the same process. And when I was looking at content, I was thinking, okay, I would look at the 7 keywords of whatever it is I want to put within my book. So serial killer stats, that's in the book. Serial killer trials, that's in the book. Serial killer bios, that's in the book. You could do serial killer victims. So there are a lot of different ways that you can search for this to see what content would be profitable, because your content is directly linked to your 7 keywords. You want to be able to have the content as well as the book idea be established within those 7 keywords. And so to know whether that is even profitable or not is a really important thing, because if you're, just putting in stuff within your book that isn't actually being searched quite a bit, then no matter what keywords you use, that could be problematic if it's not being searched enough. So did you have anything you wanted to add, Virginie?
Yeah, so the 7 keywords, that's when you are in your back end of KDP, when you upload the book, and there's 7 boxes. So each box has a limit of 50 characters, not words. So characters includes things like punctuation, spaces, all that. So don't repeat them. There's no point of repeating those keywords, and don't stuff them. And
don't target an author. Don't target an author. Just ideas or search term, but no authors. Don't do that. They hate that. So.
I don't think it's Joanna is asking, are you doing all the 7 keywords research before you write the book? I don't think it's
you don't have to.
Yeah, I don't think it's a linear process. It's like doing keyword research, then you start thinking about the book and you're going a little bit further down. But as you do more research, as you go, there's more keywords coming up. And then by the time you got your outline to the book, to the ghostwriter, you pretty much know what are your best top 7 keywords, and that's the ones you put in those 7 boxes.
Be okay with tweaking things. You might find a keyword that works better later on. Just replace it and keep going. That's okay.
So title, subtitle, this is the most important. That's what your readers see first. That's it. That and the cover. Those are the things that you really need to pay attention. And then 7 keywords, it's just KDP helping you to make your book visible. So if say in the title it says serial killers, serial killer true crime, and then that's one title, and then in your 7 keywords, for example, you can put serial killer true crime as in the first box, and then something else in the other boxes.
And then you could put famous murder cases in the other box. You could put Zodiac killer in the next box. That's pretty specific and probably something you would want to cover if you're talking about famous serial killers, so just examples right there.
So phrases are single words. So it really depends on the topic. If it makes sense to have a phrase, put a phrase. If a single word is it's to the point, then put a single word. But it doesn't. It's And you can use the same process for journals. Someone is asking that, Tony. Can you change the 7 keywords after books goes live? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Is there a penalty for stuffing keywords? I don't know. That's the question. Do you know, CJ?
I don't think that there is, but what will happen if you're stuffing keywords is that it's going to make your book description not make any sense. So that's a problem, which will hurt your marketability. I have seen people stuff keywords in the subtitle and title because they're trying to get ranked. That doesn't necessarily, unless it makes sense, it doesn't appeal to a person. If people are just getting a laundry list of keywords within a title and a subtitle and they can't tell where the title begins and the subtitle ends, I mean, it's not very helpful for them. So you do have to consider that you are marketing this to people who want to see a catchy title and a very specific subtitle that tells them what the book is about and what the book is going to solve. Because when it comes to nonfiction, generally, you know, you're solving a pain point, you're fulfilling a need. So what need are you fulfilling? What pain point are you solving? And what keyword, phrase, or word are you using to let them know that within the subtitle, basically, or title? So
it's 50 characters per box. You don't have to use all the 50 characters. If it doesn't make sense, don't use the 50 characters. Yes, you cannot change your title or subtitle after once you publish your book. So make sure that you think really carefully about what's the title and what's the subtitle, and also the title and subtitle need to match with what's going on your book cover.
Your cover.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't change that. Or otherwise you have to re-upload a new book and go through the review process again. Another thing is, but the keywords, the 7 keywords, you can change later because this is in your back end, right? It's
like the metadata.
Yeah, exactly. The subtitle, you don't have to have a subtitle, but if you are typing in a subtitle in when you're uploading your book, it will appear on your cover. And we do recommend you have a subtitle. You can find Karen, I don't know if you can change title. I couldn't change the title after publishing. Once it's published, can you, CJ? Can you change?
You know, with ebooks, it's a little bit. You can make some changes with ebooks. Paperback, absolutely not. Once that's locked in, it's stuck. You could try to go back in and fix it, but you can't. I've been able to tweak and change a few things. Like I was able to add with my Paranormal Misfits series, I was able to add a subtitle, Allies of the Fey Realm. And that was after book 3 in the young adult fantasy thing. So I did add that in because I was finding that like Allies of the Fey Realm or Fey Realm was a great keyword that I was not utilizing, and what an idiot, put it in the subtitle, which I didn't have. I didn't have a subtitle. So, you know, lesson learned. Went back in and fixed that. For the ebook, I could not add that to the paperback, but I was okay with that because it was just an extra thing to help searching, and it really didn't need it. I already had like My Fair Assassin, Paranormal Misfits on the cover already for all of those. So the title of the book, the series title was all on the cover. So just tweaking that and actually adding a subtitle wasn't a huge deal for that book series. So yeah, so that I did change. So you can do that with ebook, but again, not paperback. They are super strict with paperback.
Yeah, someone said that they could. I have never seen that's possible, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've tried, I've gone in, I've even asked Amazon if you can do it now, then that's super recent and yay for us. But yeah, I don't know.
I definitely couldn't. All right, so we're just running a little bit over time, and I know that you have a lot of questions, so keep sending your questions to KPI, not KTP, KPI at blueskyamazon.com. And I think there's again some more questions about keyword stuffing. Just remember that Amazon is all about customer experience. Right. So for your readers, if they read a paragraph of junk, like that doesn't make any sense, it's not going to be very good experience for them. So whenever you are thinking about writing your book description or your title or subtitle, always think that it has to make sense, right? Use keywords, definitely, but it has to make sense for your reader. If it reads really weird, it's not going to be good for them, and it's not going to be good for you from for people to buy your book, basically. All right, guys. Okay, thanks, CJ. It was great as always.
Absolutely, always happy to be here.
I think we are going to do a separate session on keywords for AMS. So AMS is the advertising for your books. So, like a bit like a PPC. It is PPC, basically. It is PPC for your physical products, but there are some differences. So we're going to do a lot of sessions on advertising. So it's coming, and thank you all for your patience. We're just providing content and depending on the kind of questions that we receive in our help desk. So keep them coming in. We love your questions. So yeah, awesome. Thanks, CJ. I'll see you very soon.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys later.
See you guys. Bye.